Hi, it's Bobby from Bobby's Baking Blog, and we're going to be working with modeling chocolate, making little figures. And this is my little figure that I made, and it's a caricature of my daughter. And I'm going to show you how I did it. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to make the legs, the mermaid style legs that I did, and the torso. And you want to start with about 106 grams of modeling chocolate that's been colored with ivory and a smidge of peach. I usually do about 1/2 toothpick of the ivory to 1/8 of the peach. You don't want it to get too peachy, but you don't want it to be plain ivory. So for the legs, you want to take a little piece off, and because it's modeling chocolate, your enemy is going to be heat and friction. So if you find that it's not working or it starts getting bizarre and you just put it in the freezer for a few minutes, about 3, because we're going to be going pretty thin, and it should be fine. The way to tell if your modeling chocolate is starting to have a problem is if you stand it up, and it starts bending over. Right now we're fine, but I'm going to take it thinner than this because I'm bringing it down to do the leg. So I'm going to start by tapering it downward because we're thinner at our calf than we are at our thigh. And for the caricature that I did, I went pretty small because you're going to be putting clothing on, and you don't want to get it too bulky. So you're going to bring down your leg to about there. And because we are humans and we don't have sausage legs, that's maybe a little bit too long. I'm going to go in the middle here and get it to bend. My modeling chocolate is still doing okay, so I can have a knee. And at the same time as I'm gently pinching and rolling, I'm making my thigh and I'm making my leg. And then I'm going to come down to where my foot is. And you can use like a little tool to kind of mark it where you want your ankle to be. You're going to do about the same thing. You can either roll it, as you can see it's starting to get a little bit wobbly on me. I found that to be more problematic with the hands than with the foot. So I've kind of got a foot, or the bottom of the foot, and I'm going to pinch it down. Now I'm not going to make toes or anything because in my little character she had on hosiery. We are going to need to make a heel to our foot. And we want to kind of point that little toe out. And we're going to smooth this out just a little bit. And define it. We want to give a nice little ankle. We don't want kinkles, especially if you're doing a woman. You could insult that poor woman if you had little kinkles. Alright, so I can see my modeling chocolate's getting a little bit overworked. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in the refrigerator and do the second leg, and then I'll come back and show you how to put it on. So while the other leg is resting and becoming a little bit cooler to work with, and like I said, your biggest enemy with modeling chocolate is going to be the heat and the friction that we're making as we do this. I'm going to do the second one. Now I have my little character sitting kind of like a Pilates mermaid style. But you can have the legs dangling over the edge of the cake. A lot of people find that to be easier to do. So we're going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to cut off just this bottom because I don't like the way it looks. It's a little bit wider than my other one, but as I roll it, I think it'll be okay. And you can bring it down with your hands, whatever works best for you. Okay, and then go right about the middle where the knee would be. And you're going to gently pinch and roll. And as you pinch and roll, you'll notice that you're making your thigh and you're making your calf at the same time. And you can come down here and do the same thing with the bottom. I start a little thicker, as you notice, and then I end up getting very skinny for that ankle. I take my finger and kind of push it down to make my toe. We're going to pinch like this. I don't mean to take it out of the camera. I'm going to bring in the heel, because feet have heels. Then we're going to take our tool. We don't want kinkles. Even if you end up making a pregnant person, don't make kinkles. I always bring the foot down like this so it's almost like ballet slippers in case I decide to put a shoe on it or a heel. That way, especially if it's a woman. If it's a man, you can be a little bit flat-footed if you want. But that way you have the option to put a little shoe on as long as you bring the toe down like that. And again, like the others, the other foot, this one's gotten a little bit soft. But I'm going to go ahead and bend it just so you can see how that is. So we're going to bend it right at that knee. We're going to kind of pinch it at the same time. You're going to want to smooth out any imperfections after you take it out of the refrigerator if it needs to go in. And this one does need a little refrigeration. So I'm going to go put this in the refrigerator and then I'll show you how to put the two legs together. To make the style of the leg I did, you're going to take the legs, make sure they're the same size, which they are, put one leg on top of the other. Kind of smash it a little bit, just the thigh part. And angle it, because remember, you're sitting kind of mermaid style. So I'm going to make the torso. And what you need for the torso is a toothpick and some tools. And you need a block of chocolate, of your modeling chocolate that's colored flesh tone. Now I know they make a flesh tone color, however, I wouldn't necessarily use it. It ends up looking too suntanny, and you're going to look like you gave your little caricature or your figure a burn. Alright, so we're going to make a little figure here. I want to get it nice and smooth without getting it too hot. I'm going to roll it for a second in my hand. I'm going to make a nice little log. And now this is one of those things where you might have enough, you might not have enough, depending on how thin you want your body. I'm going to add a little more because I can take it away. Normally, when you're building any type of figure, whether it's a caricature or going to be a replica, a child is 4 heads high. So however big your head is, your body and legs need to be 4 heads high. If it is a child, or if it is a woman, it needs to be 6 heads high, and if it's a man, it needs to be about 8 heads high. And I got that from a sculpting book um, for polymer clay. So, and I will give you the name of that book before we end today, so that if you want to get it, it's a great book because pretty much modeling chocolate works similar to polymer clay, except for the fact that polymer clay doesn't get too hot and you bake it in the oven. If you bake this in the oven, that would be a mess. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with this little torso, and we're going to kind of pinch in the middle to make this waist. And we are going to make a very, very small waist, because when we add the skirt and the top, it's going to add bulk, and you don't want to end up with a very heavy character. So I'm going to bring down the shoulders and the neck here. Working with my chocolate, I'm going to pinch in where my legs are going to be when this goes on. And here's my little tummy, right there, the bottom part of your abdomen. And then we're going to add in, because this person, the caricature was done for a 21-year-old, she obviously had breasts. So we're going to add in the breasts. And to do that, we're going to start by making a divot here, and one here, and one here. And then we're just going to use our fingers and start building up her little breasts. Obviously, if you were doing a man, you would not be doing this. You'd be making a V shape for a man. Unless you married an O, and then you'd be making an O shape, which would be a nice way of saying a chubby man. And there's these great little tools that are called color shapers. If you don't have them, PME makes wonderful tools that you can use to do the same thing. So we're going to just build up, and I hope you don't mind that we're doing this in real time so you can see exactly how I did what I did. This video might seem a little bit tedious, but I want you to see how long it took me to build the body. So I can already tell it's a little bit long, but I'll deal with that later. I've got the breasts a little bit too high. So we're just going to pinch them and round them out and make them nice. You can make them any size you want. I suggest you make them nice and perky, or you might insult somebody. And that you don't make a unibreast. Remember, there are two separate breasts. They're not dually attached. You might want to keep in mind when you're making the size, and I found this out on the first the first figure I ever made, that if you go to do the clothes, depending on how big you made your breasts, is how much bigger you're going to need your front shirt. Or if you're making a dress, the front top of it. It does take a little bit of time just to get them into place so they look right. And when you see your figure without any clothes, she is going to look a little emaciated because she's going to be very thin. But as you can see how nice it looked to have that small waistline once I got finished and put on the clothes. Also keep in mind that right here is going to be your neck area and your shoulders, so you don't want to make the chest area up high like that. What I like about these colors, and they're called color shapers, they're actually for painting, is that you can smooth in anything that you divot. And they work wonderful on fondant and gum paste. So it's not just for modeling chocolate. You can pretty much use them for all the mediums that you would be sculpting with. And if you choose to use fondant, I would mix a little bit of Tylose as you go so that you don't get a floppy figure. And if you're going to use gum paste, you are going to want to work a little bit faster and have some water by so that you can keep moistening your gum paste and it doesn't crack and dry out on you. I found for this that modeling chocolate worked really well, and then I have made a mixture of 3 parts fondant to 1 part modeling chocolate that worked fairly well too, until I got to the face, and then it didn't work out so well there, and it was hard to mix the color to match. So it was great for the body, but not so much for the face. And I found that the legs were fairly easy. They were something you could do with almost any medium. So we're just about there. And like I said, she's going to look fairly thin. Let's see if she's too long for the bottom. Right there, and she is. I'm going to cut that down and remodel that part. You have to keep in mind the size as you're working, and there'll be things that you cut away or have to add. It looks like my table isn't leveled because everything is rolling around. Now, because this is a nice chunk, I'm not finding that it's becoming too hot. And normally my hands are fairly cold. And it has been quite cold in Denver. But if you find that your hands are getting too warm and your chocolate is starting to act weird, put the chocolate in the refrigerator, cool down your hands. I use a shaker that you would use to make a drink in. I throw some ice and water in it and just shake it a couple times. And that usually cools down my hands, and I have a nice little glass of ice water too. So I'm just going to continue to do exactly what I'm doing, and I will be back in a minute to show you how to put it together. So once you get your breasts just how you want them, and they're so, and you have your torso the size that you need, you're going to pinch up and bring in your neck. You're going to add your clavicle with your shaper tool just by bringing it across evenly and kind of smoothing it upwards towards your neck and a little downwards. And then take your bone tool and make some armholes for your arms. Once you have your torso just how you like it and the neck is on, you're going to take your legs and put them on top of one another so that the ankles are touching. And you're going to literally put the toothpick, and you want to use one of these Japanese toothpicks that have a top like so, where there isn't a point on the top. And then you're going to take your torso, and you can take another toothpick or a pin or even a scribing tool and make a hole in the bottom. And you're going to take that and bring it down onto your legs, like so. And then smooth it down into your legs. Now we're not trying to we want to make sure it's straight. We're not trying to make it look so anatomically correct at this point because you're not going to see this. It's going to be covered with clothing. We want the shape to be there because obviously that would be something you could tell. But you don't need to worry about adding more of a backside than just a little piece of your modeling chocolate in here and just smoothing it up and smoothing it down into your legs so that it attaches nice and neat. And you want to make sure that you're straight. And if your legs move because they're on the toothpick and it is modeling chocolate, it's not going to dry out on you, you can just move it back in. So now you have your mermaid shape. You have your torso. And you can keep playing with it now that it's on, making sure it all is the way it would be for sitting in a mermaid cell. If you want to bend it a little bit, you can. And in the next video that I will be showing you, we'll do the head. And then we'll do the hands. So pretty much that's it for making the torso and the legs. Thank you for watching.